Did you know that even after someone as famous as a princess is gone, her story can still hold a secret that shocks everyone? You might think you know everything about the people's princess, but there is one secret buried in her final papers that still makes people's jaws drop today. Get ready, because we are about to share a story about Princess Diana that even now, many years later, still makes people gasp and say, "Wow!" This isn't just a story about fancy castles, big parades, or shiny crowns. It is a story about a mother's deep, unbreakable love and a very special choice she made that changed everything for her two sons. When Princess Diana passed away in 1997, it was a very sad time for everyone around the whole world. Millions of people felt like they had lost a friend because she was more than just a princess with a title. She was a kind, strong, and brave person who truly cared about other people. But while the whole world was crying, another secret story was slowly starting to come out. This story wasn't about the government or kings or queens. It was about something very personal and very surprising. Here at the Palace Vale, we love uncovering these hidden moments that show the real people behind the royal titles. Before we dive into the mystery of Diana's final gift, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us bring you more stories like this one, and you definitely do not want to miss what is coming next in our royal investigations. After Princess Diana was gone, many people started asking big questions about what she wanted to happen to all her things. What did she leave behind in her private rooms? Who would get her special belongings, her money, and the things she loved the most? Many people thought everything would follow the very old and strict royal rules. They thought the palace would decide where every dress and every diamond went. But the real answer was much more loving and much more surprising than anyone could have guessed. Diana was not like other royals who lived before her. She didn't always like to follow the old, dusty rules just because they were traditional. She chose to listen to her heart instead. And when it was time for her to decide who would get all the things she treasured, she made a choice that showed the world who she really was deep down. What surprised people the most wasn't how much her things were worth in money. It was the person she trusted the most and the message she was sending. This choice showed her biggest love, her best hope, and exactly what she wanted to leave behind for the future. Even now, so many years later, what she decided still touches people's hearts everywhere you go. Because what Diana left wasn't just a pile of money or a list of jewels. It was a message of love and trust. It was a message about the one person she believed would keep her spirit alive long after she was gone. And when the truth about her last wishes finally came out, it made millions of people completely speechless. The truth about Princess Diana's last wishes actually started a long time before she passed away. Even though she lived in a giant world full of complicated royal rules and many eyes watching her, Diana always thought for herself. She knew she had very important jobs to do because she was the Princess of Wales. She had to go to big parties and meet world leaders. But she also knew something else that was much more important. Being a mother was more important to her than any royal title or any fancy dress. Inside the quiet walls of the palace, away from the flashing cameras and the big crowds, her most important job was always taking care of her two sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. From the very first day they were born, Diana made a promise to herself. She promised that she would keep them safe, guide them through life, and get them ready for a future that she knew would be very difficult. She understood how hard it was to be a royal better than anyone else. She had been watched by the news every single day. She often felt very alone, and she felt the weight of huge expectations on her shoulders. She didn't want her sons to have to face that world without having something of hers to hold on to. Because she was different from the royal families who came before her, Diana changed many of the rules about how she raised her children. She didn't want them to grow up only inside palace walls. She took them to fun theme parks where they could feel the wind in their hair. She took them to fast food restaurants to eat burgers just like regular kids. She wanted them to see the real world, understand what life was like for regular people, and learn how to care about others who were struggling. These choices weren't just random or for fun. They were very smart choices made by a mother who wanted her sons to grow up feeling normal, not separated from everyone else by their special life. As time went on, Diana also started to understand that life can be very uncertain. Her separation and then her divorce from the prince brought many sad feelings and worries about what would happen next. During this quiet and difficult time, she started to get all her personal things in order. She wasn't just thinking about bank accounts. She was thinking about her legacy. She was thinking about what parts of her soul would stay with her sons after she was gone. Diana's personal things were much more than just expensive objects. They included private letters she had written with her own hand, her most special jewelry that she wore to important events, her favorite photos, and items that had very deep feelings attached to them. Each piece was like a tiny memory, a moment in time, or a feeling she had. These weren't things she wanted to be locked away in a museum or controlled by the government's royal rules. She wanted them to live on in the homes and lives of the people she loved the most in the world. What made her decision so strong was the reason behind it. Diana wasn't focused on her status as a princess or what the news would say about her. She was focused on real human feelings. She wanted her sons to have something real to touch, something that reminded them not of a famous princess, but of their mommy. She knew that one day they would have to live their lives without her being there to hug them. Because of that, she wanted to leave behind comfort, strength, and love in things they could actually see and hold. People who were very close to Diana often talked about how much she protected her sons. Even during her hardest times, when she was feeling sad or stressed, she always put William and Harry's feelings first. She knew they would grow up with the whole world watching every move they made. She knew they would have massive responsibilities when they got older, and she wanted to make sure they also carried something else in their hearts. She wanted them to always know, without a doubt, that they were deeply loved. In her quiet moments, Diana thought a lot about the future. She knew her sons would grow into men with their own lives, their own wives, and their own problems. She couldn't control everything that would happen to them once she was gone, but she could give them something that would always be there. A little piece of her heart kept safe through the things she left behind. Her decisions weren't about following the law of the land. They were about the law of being a mother. They were about a love that was so big it would continue even after she wasn't there to say it out loud. And even though the world saw Diana as a global superstar, her last choices showed that she was, most of all, a mother making sure her children would never feel like they were alone. What happened after she passed away showed just how much she had planned for that promise. When Princess Diana's will was finally opened, the room was full of very strong feelings, a lot of tension, and so much curiosity. For the public, Diana had been an icon. But in that private room, she was being remembered as a mother and a daughter. Those who were there to read the papers knew they were about to see her very last act of love. What they found in those documents showed everything about what was most important to her. Diana had made it very clear that most of her personal things and her money would go directly to her two sons. This included her money, her jewelry, her letters, and all those meaningful items she had loved her whole life. She did not leave these things to royal organizations, and she didn't let the palace take control. Instead, she put all her trust in the two boys who meant the world to her. When she passed away, both William and Harry were still very young boys. Diana was smart enough to know they wouldn't be ready to handle such a huge responsibility right away. So she made a plan to protect their inheritance using something called a special fund. This meant her things and her money would be kept safe and managed by adults she trusted until the boys became grown-ups. It was her way of making sure her sons would not only get what she left behind, but would also be old enough to understand why those things were so important. This decision actually surprised a lot of people. Some people thought the old royal rules would force her possessions to be handled differently. Others believed her famous dresses or jewelry would stay in official royal collections for the public to look at. But Diana had quietly made sure that her personal life would stay in the hands of her children. This showed how independent she was and how much she wanted to control her own story even after she was gone. Here at the Palace Vale, we think this is one of the most beautiful parts of her life story. For William and Harry, what they eventually received was worth much more than gold. Each item they touched had a feeling attached to it. The jewelry reminded them of the times they saw her smiling at a party. The letters reminded them of her warmth and the way she gave them comfort when they were sad. The photos captured memories of them laughing and feeling safe in her arms. These weren't just objects to be counted. They were connections to a mother they had lost way too soon. One of the most touching stories about this came out years later. Diana's famous sapphire engagement ring, which is one of the most famous pieces of jewelry in history, was part of what she left behind. At first, Harry was the one who chose to keep it as a memory of his mom. But in a very quiet and very kind way, he later decided to give it to his older brother, William. He did this so William could use the ring to ask Catherine to marry him. This act showed that the brothers were close, but it also showed that Diana was still a big part of their lives. Even though she wasn't there, her ring was on the finger of the woman who would become the next Princess of Wales. Her influence stayed a part of their most important life moments. Diana had also made sure that family members she truly trusted would watch over her wishes. She chose people who loved her as a friend, not just because she was a royal. This made sure that her voice would still be heard even when she wasn't there to speak for herself. Her decisions showed very careful thought and deep love for her children's future. The reading of her will prove what the people closest to her already knew in their hearts. Diana's biggest worry was never about being famous or having a lot of money. It was always about William and Harry. Every single decision she made in those papers showed her wish to protect them and stay a part of their lives in any way she could. In the end, what Diana left behind was